In our last episode of the Grammar Even Grandma Can Understand series, we unpacked le and clarified that Mandarin uses aspect, not tense. Today, we're gonna break down another aspect marker, 过. Follow along and you'll be able to talk about past experiences naturally, just like playing a game of Never Have I Ever. They call it learning, we say it's fun. Welcome to Fun Mandarin 玩中文。大家好, I'm Bryan. First of all, let's take a look at the character 过. Have you noticed something? Whether it's the traditional or simplified form, the character 过 shares the same radical on the left. This radical 戳 means to walk or suggest motion or movement. It gives us a clue about the meaning of the character 过 itself. 过 is about passing, crossing, or going through something. So when combining 过 with other characters, their meanings often build on that core idea. For example, 过去、过来、经过、跳过。As you can see, understanding the core meaning of 过 is a great starting point for grasping how it works to express past experiences, because your past experience is something you've gone through. Now, let's take a look at how 过 is used in the following conversation. Watch as Jack, Max, Chip, and Dale play Never Have I Ever in Mandarin at a party. If you're not familiar with this game, here's a quick heads up. Never Have I Ever is a popular icebreaker party game. We'll see the 10 fingers version here. Everyone sits around the table. One person says something they've never done. If you have done it, you put a finger down. When the game ends, whoever has the most fingers up is the winner. Since 过 is for past experiences, this game is the perfect context to see how it works in real conversation. Let's watch how 过 comes up in the dialogue. 我先开始哦。我从来没去过台湾啊，我去过，我也去过，换我。我从来没吃过臭豆腐。哎呀，我吃过。可恶，我也吃过。哈哈，我没吃过。换我咯。我从来没看过成龙的电影。我没看过。屁啦！你昨天才来我家看了《熊猫计划》耶。我只记得电影里有熊猫，不记得有成龙啊。你丑一哦。最后一题啦。我从来没唱过 KTV。我唱过了，但是我不喜欢。哈哈，我没唱过。哎 ，Jack， 你赢了耶！太棒了，我从来没赢过。Since it's a game of never have I ever, you must have noticed the sentence pattern, 我从来没, repeated throughout the dialogue. Let's break down the first sentence. Jack says, 我从来没去过台湾。从来 literally means from the past until now. It's often used with the negative 没 as in 从来没 to mean have never, emphasizing that something has never happened, not even once. We can also say 从来没有. Now, looking at the sentence, we can easily spot the verb 去, which is highlighted in green. If 从来没 means have never, then why don't we just say 我从来没去台湾? Why do we need 过 after 去? What exactly is 过 then? From the last episode, we discovered that Mandarin doesn't have tense since verbs don't change form like they do in English or other languages. Just like le, 过 can help us understand how an action relates to time. Linguists will call them as aspect particles or aspect markers. To be more specific, while le is a perfective aspect marker used to talk about completed actions, is called an experiential aspect particle because it's used to talk about past experiences. If these terminologies have already given you a headache,
Oops.
I get it. I usually tell students to imagine these aspect particles like sticky notes. Imagine we stick them onto the action, the verb, to remind ourselves and show others how that action fits into the timeline. So if we put the sticky note 过 onto 去, we get 去过. This tells us that the action 去 has happened at some point in the past as an experience. So 去过台湾 means have been to Taiwan. But Jack has never been to Taiwan before. That's why he says, 我从来没去过台湾. To make it simple, he could also say, 我没去过台湾. If Jack says, 我还没去过台湾, it doesn't only mean he hasn't been to Taiwan yet. It also suggests he might go in the future. That's because 还 adds the sense of yet or still. Once you understand this first example, it's easy to spot the same pattern in other sentences from the dialogue. 我从来没吃过臭豆腐. 我从来没看过成龙的电影. 我从来没唱过 KTV. 我从来没赢过. In each sentence, the verb is followed by 过, showing it refers to a past experience without a specific time. Now, we know we can talk about our past experience by adding that little sticky note, aspect particle 过 after an action. We can also use it with 没 or 从来没 to say we haven't had that experience. But what if we want to ask someone whether they have had that experience? Let's take Max's sentence for example. If Max wants to ask his friends if they have ever eaten stinky tofu, he just needs to change the subject from 我 to me, drop 从来没, and add the yes/no question word 吗 at the end. So the question would be, 你吃过臭豆腐吗? To answer, we can use a full sentence like, 我吃过臭豆腐. If you haven't had, you can say, 我没吃过臭豆腐. But in casual conversation, it's totally fine to keep it short. We just say, 吃过 or 没吃过. If you want to emphasize that you really never have, you can say, 从来没吃过. As you can see, a short answer is usually enough in everyday conversation. Now that you've seen how 过 is used for past experiences, let's try a quick challenge. See if you can distinguish 过 and 了. Here are two sentences. Max 昨天看了成龙的电影. Max 看过成龙的电影. What's the difference? Which one tells us when Max watched a Jackie Chan movie? Which one tells us that Max has had the experience of watching a Jackie Chan movie? The first sentence, Max 昨天看了成龙的电影, not only uses the sticky note 了 after the verb 看, which shows this action 看 is completed, but also tells us the specific time 昨天 when Max watched the movie. On the other hand, the second sentence, Max 看过成龙的电影, tells us that Max has had the experience of watching a Jackie Chan movie at some point in the past, but doesn't say exactly when. Here, the sticky note 过 after 看 shows that the action 看 is about a past experience. I'm sure by now you can tell when to use 过 and when to use 了. But here's a tricky situation. What happens when 过 and 了 are used together with an action? Let's look at the line from the dialogue where Chip talks about his karaoke experience. 我唱过了. If Chip only said 我唱过, it would just mean he's done karaoke before. But by saying 唱过了, it adds the feeling that he doesn't want to do it again, especially since he follows it with 但是我不喜欢. You also often hear people add 已经 to emphasize something has been done and they don't intend to do it again. Here are some more examples. When your friend invites you to go out for dinner and you say 我已经吃过了. This means you've already eaten and don't want more. Or when your boss nags you to read a report and you say 我已经看过了. This shows you've already read the report and aren't going to read it again. Next up, let's summarize the key points with this quick quiz. Write down your answers as 对 if you think the statement is true, or 不对 if it's false. 1. 过 should come before the verb. 对不对? Instead of memorizing word order, I highly recommend to look at the examples with color coding. 我去过我看过我吃过 We can easily see the verbs all highlighted in green. So, 过 actually comes after the verb. That statement is 不对. Remember, think of 过 as a sticky note you put after the verb or action. 2. We use 吗 with 过 to say someone has never experienced something. 对不对? Clearly, the answer is 不对. Ma is a yes-no question word that goes at the end of a sentence to make it a question. To say you haven't had the experience, use 没 to negate or 从来没 to emphasize never ever. 3. 过 and 了 can be used interchangeably. 对不对? The answer is 不对. Even though they are both aspect particles but express different grammatical aspects. 过 is an experiential aspect particle used for past experiences. 了 is a perfective aspect particle used for completed actions. But did you know 了 can also show ongoing or consecutive actions in some contexts? You can find more examples and usage tips in this episode later. 4. When 过 and 了 are used together with a verb, it means someone has tried something and they probably will not do it again. 对不对? This one is 对. If you're still unsure about this, you can find the timestamp in the description box to rewatch the examples. Along with this quiz, I've also put together a 1-minute cheat sheet of these key points. It works best after watching this episode. You can print out as a quick reference whenever questions come up. This cheat sheet and many other resources are exclusively on my Ko-fi page. Be sure to check them out and follow my Ko-fi page so you don't miss any posts or resources. And if you like, you can also buy me a coffee to keep me going. I would really appreciate for your support. 谢谢收看 Fun Mandarin 玩中文，我们下次见。